Hello and welcome to Anime Memories, and on this episode, I'm going to be talking about Black Cat. My first experience with this goes way back as I first saw it on Cartoon Network's beloved Adult Swim block. And it's probably the most forgettable anime that aired on there. It just didn't stand out when surrounded by classics like Cowboy Bebop, Initial D, Standalone Complex. Hell, I remember more about Air Gear than I do about Black Cat. It was enjoyable at the time, but after it finished airing, I didn't think about it again until I randomly saw it on Amazon 3 months ago. It was only 20 bucks and I thought that would be worth the risk. I thought it would be worth paying the money to see if this had any merit. Train Hartnett works as an assassin for a company called Kronos. And yes, the main character is called Train Hartnett. You know, I'm going to go off on a bit of a tangent here because some of these names are idiotic. Train Hartnett. Did you call him that because Squall Leonhardt was already taken? Although after saying all that, I was going to let this go because it's only one character, not that big of a deal. I was sure that the rest of the cast would have perfectly normal names. Then, later on in the first episode, they bring out a corrupt politician called Lib Tyrant. That is fucking stupid, and this is coming from someone who likes professional wrestling. We have a guy called Dolph Ziggler, or as I like to call him, the hunkiest member in the Spirit Squad. Love you, baby. Anyway, on a night where Train is brooding especially hard, he meets an interesting girl named Saya. Her overly positive attitude makes him rethink what he's doing, so he decides to walk away from Kronos. After quitting as an assassin, he joins a bounty hunting group and tries to live a more virtuous life. But the people from his past are not going to let him go so easily. Before I say anything else, I gotta talk about the first scene. I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but I've got a clip that should give you a pretty good idea of what's going on, so here is what Black Cat decided to make its first impression with.
That woman! She's got you! You're under that witch's spell!
I thought this was hilarious. I had to rewind a few times to make sure I was saying everything right. And I was. The opening's ridiculous. The characters had these high-pitched, nasally voices, and the dialogue was so angsty that it sounded like it came from the diary of an emo 14-year-old. This was a bad opening, so the anime was going to have to do a lot to make up for it. And it did make up for it. But it was in a way that I wasn't expecting. It became a comedy. There were many parts in here that were intentionally corny, as if the anime was embracing its own absurdity. But what truly made me fall in love with Black Cat was the unintentional comedy. There are so many times, like the opening scene, where it tries to be so edgy and serious that it goes all the way back around and winds up being hilarious. Unfortunately, these moments don't happen as often as I would like. There were quite a few long stints of serious conversations that were very dull. It got especially bad towards the end when the story was wrapping up. But through the tough times, the comedy was more than enough to keep me going. Now, I've always said that a great cast is essential for a comedy to work. And at the centre of this cast is Train Hartnett. I know I've already made a Final Fantasy joke, but it honestly feels like the creator played Final Fantasy VIII and said, wow, Squall is the coolest guy ever. I've got to write some fanfiction about him. Maybe I'll write it about his long lost cousin, and then Train was born. Despite his incredibly gloomy nature at the start, he gets a pass because he lightens up a lot as the show goes on, and he made me laugh consistently. But he didn't make me laugh as much as this clown right here. Creed Diskins has a personality that's just as cartoonish as his name. He says the most random stupid crap with such sincerity that I couldn't help but love him.
That's it, my Hartnett. You are greatness true and pure.
This does hurt him as an antagonist. I don't think I could ever take him seriously with his hammy demeanour. But who cares about that? This guy's amazing. Next up we have Spike Spiegel, a struggling bounty hunter who's a bit rough around the edges, but has a heart of gold. Oh, hold up, wait a minute, I think I read that wrong. Next up we have Sven Volfeed, a struggling bounty hunter who's a bit rough around the edges but has a heart of gold. Similar to the rest of the cast, he's pretty funny and his relationship with Eve was very heartwarming. Once you get past his similarities to other characters from much better anime, he's extremely likeable. I think I've rambled on long enough about the cast, so to quickly wrap up my thoughts on everyone else, Rinslet's cool, Eve is as cute as a button, and outside of Creed and one of his apostles called Kyoko, none of the villains are interesting enough to be memorable. Alright, on to the visuals. If I had to use one word to describe the animation, it would be lazy. They use a ton of panning shots and still images because it's easy. The action scenes usually contain fairly basic backgrounds because it's easy. It feels like the animators didn't put their full effort into this. I also found the action to be poorly edited. Sometimes they don't even show the characters hitting each other. You'll have one guy who rushes forward and attacks, and then it'll just cut to the other guy grunting and falling over. To be fair, it doesn't look horrible, and many of these flaws can be traced back to the fact that this is over 10 years old. If I was going to rate the visuals overall, I'd give them a 5 out of 10, just kind of average. When it comes to the sound, the music wants you to believe that you're watching the most epic thing that's ever been put on screen. And it's not. The soundtrack is so over the top that it comes off as goofy. If they wanted me to take this seriously, they needed to use a bit more subtlety. Well, actually, a lot more subtlety. Although there were a few tracks that I did genuinely like, and one of them is Sire's song. I found it somewhat enchanting. It's sung beautifully, and it also has this element of sadness, as if the singer is letting go of all this pain she's been holding on to. They don't always use it well. Sometimes they play it during one of those overly edgy scenes and it made me crack up, but when they do use it properly, it touched me a bit. I also came to really like the opening. It shows what all the characters can do, and it captures the overblown nature of the anime. You may have noticed that this review contained a lot more jokes than there usually are, and the reason for that is, this was just so easy to make fun of, I couldn't help myself. It was a blast watching this anime, and I also had a blast writing the script. If you want to laugh, I cannot recommend Black Cat enough. It's awesome. As a bit of a warning though, don't go in expecting a good plot or deep character development. Just sit back and enjoy the stupidity. So anyway, thank you very much for watching. If you have any feedback, please leave a comment, and if you like this video and want to see more, please subscribe as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.